Hello, followers. Welcome back to FanZcene. And with me today is indie comic creator Will G. Welcome, Will G. How are you doing this day?
Hey, doing good, doing good. How's it going, everybody?
It's glad to have you here for the second time you've been on the show. I appreciate your time.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes, so you are the creator of the comic RWA Reactive Weaponized Armor. Tell us a little bit about that comic and how it began, and then we'll get into where it's at right now.
Yeah. Well, with RWA, it's pretty straightforward sci-fi action. Like you have these five characters. Like really ragtag kind of group and stuff. You have Brooke. The outlaw with the heart of gold and stuff. She has the red armor and stuff like that. Mostly with the guns and the shredder cannon. If you've followed, with it so far. And so then we have Kiev. I call him the shotgun samurai. He's real into the samurai stuff, but he also, likes a good shotgun as well,
Yeah.
And so his mostly based in that, he's from the Ukraine and stuff. I had him, and so that's his name kind of thing. What I lead to, like with his character and everything. And so from there you have Donahue. He's basically your hitman, with the demolition expert and everything like that, sniper, all that kind of stuff. Wears the purple armor and stuff like that. And I just kind of treat him like Gambit, really, like with a lot of his abilities, he's got, the melee weapon with the knife and stuff. A lot of how I play with him, it's like, he's like Gambit, but he's a sniper too, kind of thing. And so, and that's what I like, with his character. He's got a cool style to him. He's real like silent type, that kind of thing. Cool, badass character like that. And Diablo, totally different personality. He's that more kind of like big bear type, friendly, but when you get him there, oh man, he'll go there kind of thing, and he's wearing green armor and stuff like that. He's got quite the heavy background and all that. He's been tied into the Grove, like the city and the crazy stuff that went on there before all the alien invasion stuff, that I have going on with this story arc. And so a lot more to explore with his character for sure as we get further into it. And all of them really, like, honestly, because I plant little seeds here and there, what I'll try to do with the issues and stuff, like, get into some backstory or, something that's like motivating them or what's going through their mind, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And so I like getting deep with the characters like that. And finally, you got Kaliska. Like I refer to her, like, she's the spirit of the group. She ties a lot of them together. She's, I mean, kind of comic relief, but at the same time, she brings a lot of the heart to it. So I really try to balance her out from being like obnoxious and stuff. You really want to try to like have her playful and stuff. Whole different vibe from the rest of the group. As well. Yeah. And where we're going with the story and stuff, like with this arc, it's just basically this invasion's going on. Grimhain, he's a Matronian, and he's warlord of the Vrockner, which is basically the alien race that I have going on in the comic. And he's mostly leading them, but, he's not their leader. He's just teaching them a lot of what his tactic is. They're a means to an end, and the invasion is kind of like cherries on the sundae for him. It doesn't really matter. He's very mad scientist is kind of how to take his character. Him and Zorn. Like they're both like the mad scientist Matronians, basically. From their experiences with Earth and everything, and how good those went. That kind of thing. And that's what I try to get into with the story as we go into. We get deeper into all the characters as we can and stuff before we get into another arc, where we can explore things further, but also dial things back, where it's more, you get into more origin stuff, you get into more of like what makes, them, of course, and then also the city, like, the progression and everything that goes on with it, because I try to treat the city itself as kind of a character, like, it progresses, it evolves, it changes and stuff like that. So that's what I've been trying to like balance out going forward, and then with the art style we have with the dark, with the grays and the, the black and whites, it really does create kind of a unique world, like kind of like, because I was even thinking like when I started, it's like, Sin City and some, kind of lights, like with the vibe it creates,
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
in the
I dig the
environment.
black or white grays and stuff you have going on.
Right. And that's what I liked about that. It's like it really sets a tone. It really sets a mood and stuff with, whatever you're trying to go with. And that's why I was like, at first, yeah, it was cost effective and all that kind of stuff. But eventually I was just like, ooh, really unique kind of style is what we ended up with,
Yeah.
And that's what, we just been, as we've been riding along with it, we try to fine tune, as we go forward. Like, there's some things that we'll kind of like, I even look back on now, like I've kind of, missed a little bit there, but at the same time, it's not all about, wallowing in those kind of things. It's just more like, hey, like, we notice this, but this, we could do better next issue for sure,
Yeah.
And that's like pretty much where we're at with the story, like this story arc is more just the invasion, and then when we get into another story arc, it'll be more about, what led up to that, all the turmoil that was going on before. And then I have a third story arc as well, going planned, but that's real raw. Like I'm still outlining all that.
Yeah, still working on it.
Right.
Right.
I try to stay ahead, when it comes to like my writing style, like with me and the artist and stuff. Like I try to, at least be 2 issues ahead of him is how like my goal, So like he's on issue 5, I'm already trying to be on issue 7. That's where I'm at like right now with production and everything, like on my end,
Right.
And like with my artist Frost and everything, like I keep him pretty busy, honestly, like, with like, because we're in production for issue 5 right now. And like we're cranking them out pretty good on the phase 1 right now. We dropped some progress here and there of phase 1. And we did get the cover art. That's what we managed to get, number 1. That was like the one thing I wanted to iron out, because like I had a vision in mind and stuff like that, but I really wanted to see it. And then like from there, I'd be like, yeah, I get a vibe for the whole issue and stuff like that as it plays out. Because like as I was writing it, like I was like, it's starting to have some survival horror vibes, and I do like some survival horror.
Yeah, I was been digging the comic as I've been reading, and I brought up the cover for issue 5 here, so some people can see what it looks like there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it looks great. Like that's why
it does. Looks good.
Thank you. Like I really like am curious to see like once it's all fleshed out. That's my number 1. Like what I'm always interested as we go with each phase and stuff like that. You see more and more, and I'm each time I'm always impressed with Frost's works. Like he just finds a way to manage to take it up even further, because like with the subsequent issues and stuff, I had figured out the cover art for that too and everything. Like I wanted to kind of like start using it like as promo art even, like, and it's like, hey, like we're working on issue 5 right now, and then we also have, future issues in the works and stuff like that down the line. There we go. Yeah, we just had Grimhand in the center, all of them around him, surrounding. Like I just wanted to go for like something that'll feature everybody for sure, but then also have, just straight up standoff, that kind of stuff. Yeah. No, that turned out real good. Like I love what he does, like with the color pops. I love what he does with it. Like it comes out sweet.
Yeah, the little splashes of color really, really set it off in the covers.
Yeah, absolutely. Like in this one, like I think like this is definitely my new favorite right now. The part 2 of issue 6 is this cover art right here. Like the last one was for part 1, and so issue 6 is going to be a 2-parter straight up, because basically that is their first big fight. Basically, that's the midway point and all that kind of stuff. Like from here, that's where we get into Act 2 of the story arc, and because I'm thinking it to be like 12 issues altogether. It's just more like, I think, with issue 5, we're about there, the midway point and stuff. But I also want to figure out the rest of this cover art too, because I really wanted to see it.
Yeah, it looks good. Looks good. I like it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, explain a little bit about the inspiration for how you got the idea for this comic, and because I feel the Power Rangers inspiration in there. Yeah, because the name of the city is the Grove, and that reminds me of Angel Grove from the Power Rangers, and like with the colors, like what they're supposed to be and everything. So give me a little bit of inspiration on how you got inspired to make this comic, and what are your goals? Because you're this independent creator, you're creating something because I've covered your books. You send them to me, and I'm eternally grateful for that. Thank you for that.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but you're creating something because in the world of entertainment these days, in comics, movies, and stuff, they're not very good, and they're kind of all becoming politicized and everything. And you're creating something independent with an independent spirit, something original that's clearly inspired by something that you grew up with, and you're making something original. So give me a little details on all that.
Oh yeah, and that's what inspired me as well. When you look around and you see things going around in media and entertainment and stuff, and I'll say myself, it's pretty hit and miss. I'll admit, there's been some that I've managed to get into, I think of the recent Spider-Man movie. I ended up liking the No Way Home. That was a recent one, right? I get lost.
Yeah.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Long Way Home.
Yeah.
Was that the?
Yeah.
That's where I get mixed up on.
I
enjoyed that one. It was real cool,
Mm-hmm.
with how they managed to get the legacy cast. I would call them in there. That kind of stuff was pretty neat. And but I would say a lot of what inspired RWA in particular, definitely the Power Rangers thing. But also, I've had a long time fascination with animes and stuff like that, the mangas and all that kind of stuff. I got into honestly 5 years ago. I got into mangas, because I was just I don't really read them. Let me see as well. If I'm gonna get into the comic realm and stuff like that, it's best to really get an eye of all the different forms out there and stuff like that. Really soak it up and find a way to blend it, because that's the key to me, I think, as far as creativity and creation goes. It's more about amalgamating things. That's what I think. It's the amalgamation, and if you amalgamate it hard enough, and nobody's going to even know the difference,
Right.
Because a lot of the times I don't get people to say Power Rangers. They'll say Ninja Turtles. They'll say even Daredevil. Sometimes, we're just with some of the cover art and choices that I went with.
You can feel the vibes of different things in there. That's why I say, because I don't want people to think you're copying or anything, because you're not. Because I said, you can feel these inspirations, but it's something unique and it's something original. Because when I'm reading the story, it's very original. It's the different planets, and with the heroes, their heroes are fighting themselves at times because they don't really know what's going on, and they have these powers, and there's the city was just exploded and invaded from where it starts off. So it's this very original story, but you can feel these inspirations of blending all, because you can feel now that you bring up anime and manga, you can feel that vibe, and you can feel the ninja. It's got that Ninja Turtles vibe, like the Eastwood with the old black and white Ninja Turtle comics.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I get where you're coming from, man.
And that's a lot what I like about it too, because when I think about it, I've always liked shows that had the elements of teamwork. You know what I mean? Group of friends, teamwork, that kind of thing, to take down the bad guy kind of thing, and they all have the different things about them that they all bring to the table and all that kind of stuff. And like Ninja Turtles, they'll banter amongst each other and stuff like that, and that's what I try to convey with the characters and stuff like that. The humanity, is what I prioritize more with their character, and the depth that I go to with them, because if I'm going to get into something raw, then I want to be able to convey that, to where it's sincere. You know what I mean? That's what I shoot for, sincerity. I'm not trying to shoot for, just have it there to have it there kind of thing, insert dramatic moment, that kind of thing. Because we've all seen good movies, we've all read good books, we've all read good comics, and you really do learn from that. And what I learned for a lot is build up, building things up, to where you set it up, and that's where a lot of the dramatic weight is built upon. And I've even with my editor, because there's times where we have maybe we started too in the middle of things, but I'm no, sometimes just throwing people in is engaging, and that's what I looked at it at first. Since we're nobodies, that kind of stuff, we're trying to make a splash, then we want to be engaging, and so he suggested going with arc 2 instead of arc 1, all the origin stuff, going in order and stuff. He's just why don't we just start in arc 2? And I just, boom, took off from there, because suddenly I had a better idea of how to go with that story than I did with the first story arc at the time. Just, you know, sometimes you'll just run into a roadblock and stuff, and then like me, how I kind of counteract that, like it's not necessarily a writer's block thing that I look at it as. It's more like, okay, I just kind of hit a wall here. Let me backtrack. Sometimes if you go back and read up to where you left off, you'll find yourself getting in the flow again, and then you'll like suddenly,
Right.
boom, the idea, you'll have it, you know. And
Yeah.
that's what I get into too with my process. You know, I don't always wait for the muses to come, you know, like it's great, you know, when you can have those great bursts of inspiration that just come to you and stuff. But you know, a good chunk of the time, you know, you gotta make it happen, you know.
Yeah.
Like you really gotta make a habit out of it, you know, like not to where it's forced, right? But you have to make a habit to really, I think, challenge yourself and then also grow, you know, like once you get into it, boom, you're never going to stop kind of thing. Like once you start going to the gym, right, you know, you make a habit of that, you'll probably never stop going.
Right.
You know, becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
Yeah.
And I'd be honest with you, I like the fact that you started the book off right in the middle of like where these guys have already all had their powers for quite some time, and it's like this starts off, the city's already, it's just been exploded, it's been attacked, and you're like, I like that because it, in my opinion, when as reading the books, you get a better sense of these characters instead of saying, well, this kid was this like shy kid, and all of a sudden he found this alien thing, and now he's a superhero and he doesn't know how to do it. You know, that's, you know, so that's been told repeatedly. An origin story is a hard story to tell. But if you're like jumping into a comic and it's like these are already well-established characters who have lived in the city and they're into something that's they've never been into before, you get to learn a lot more about these characters than you ever would have if you were reading about how this is how they got their powers. This is the villain. This is why they're mad at him. This is what happens with them, you know. And it's we have our powers. We don't know what the fuck to do.
Right.
You know, we're these heroes. Our city's destroyed. Yeah. So, I really I dug that. I dug picking it up because it really felt like I was entering a well-developed world already that was going to develop even more into a direction that I didn't expect.
Right.
So that's how I feel about it.
And you know what's funny? I recently I watched that movie Air. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Oh yeah. I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard great things about it actually.
Yeah, you know, you get curious sometimes, like, hey, let's kill some time, let's watch a movie. And so I took his chance, and I was like, you know, when they're putting the Nike shoe together, there's a scene where they're doing that and stuff, and they finally got it together. And the creator of the shoe, he's like, you know, it has the flow of water. It's like the ideology of water. It's like it always existed, like it was always here. That kind of thing. And that's like, you know, when you say that, I think about it, you know, I think like with that kind of precedent, we started it, you know, hey, like we were always here, we always existed and stuff. And, you know, boom, like you take off from there, like, okay, we'll go along the ride with you because, you don't really know them, but you get to learn about them pretty quick as well.
Yeah.
You know? Because I ain't gonna lie, like, you know, there's like, you know, some Pixar movies like that movie Up and stuff where in the intro, you're already in the feels after like 10 minutes. Right? They tell almost like a whole story in 10 minutes. And I'm like, how do y'all do that? Like, you know, I'll admit, hey, that one got me. You know, the opening 10 or 15 minutes of that movie, I was like, dang, you told a pretty heartfelt, raw, real story everyone goes through kind of thing. And the music, of course, I think is what brought a lot of that. You know, the music, I think, counts for a lot of what gets the
music really helps out big time.
Yeah, like and any emotion, really, you know, horror and what have you, you know. And so that's why I was like, you know, I really do take from every which kind of movie, you know, like I amalgamate all of it, you know, because it's like, hey, I think like when that 10-minute scene, they did that well. They did that very excellent. You know, I think if you can get somebody in the feels for 10 minutes, after 10 minutes, you know, the first opening, like, dude, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I can't deny the skill level.
Yeah.
So a lot of those things go into inspiring, like with RWA, you know, like, but I do draw a lot from like the 90s for sure. Like, you know, even my artist Frost, you know, he put me on to the anime Bubblegum Crisis and stuff like that. And I don't know if you heard of that one.
No, but, I honestly, I'm not much into anime, but
oh yeah. And like I say, I'm a Toonami kid, you know, so like when I was in middle school, man, I dove in to all that stuff.
Nice.
You know, put out, like the you know, I was pretty religious, I ain't gonna lie, you know, after school, like you get home right in time for the block to start. The entire block, you watch the whole thing. I'm watching Yu Yu Hakusho. That was my number one, of course. and even too, like, with some of our artwork, I draw from them, like with a lot of like the attitude, like, with some of the characters, like that's what I like, with some of the animes and stuff. They have a lot of room for that, even though they can be over the top, extra and dramatic, visually and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
Like everybody knows the stereotype on that one and stuff. But I always liked, not just with animes, but with the mangas, like how they were very dynamic with panels and stuff like that, with their with their shots, very dynamic and stuff, like just really, stands out, like, like Berserk, I took a lot of inspiration from that, like because of how they did the fights and stuff like that. Real, like, it's like fights that had weight to them. Like as you read it, the sound effects, the visuals, it was all palpable. You could feel every blow of that fight. It was all hard earned. That kind of stuff. Because Guts, the main character of that, he's outclassed every time. But he has the guts to struggle on, right?
Yeah.
That's what I always love about his character. That's what I like. Too, with stories in general. I like to have humanity at the forefront, convey like something raw, something real that we all go through, that we can all feel inspired by at the end of it. Like, not that, hey, you can't have one of those gnarly twist, unhappy endings like Sixth Sense. It was kind of a sad ending, right? But hey, what a twist, right?
Yeah.
Like, did you feel cheated, from that twist? Like, I didn't feel cheated. I was just that was a mind-blowing kind of one.
Yeah.
You're just like, what? And then you have to totally rewatch the whole thing. I was like, boom, that right there, that's the mark of a good movie right there to me. Like just like any good video game as well, the replayability.
I agree. Yeah, and it's fun. So that makes me interested to see where you're headed with your story now, to see how it's all going to play out. So, how long do you like? Do you have? You said you have like a 3-arc series headed out. Do you know where it's going to end? Do you know how this story, the whole story, not just like the arc that you're on now, but like the whole story in general? Do you know where that ends?
Oh yeah. I know where it's going. I know how it ends. I don't know what to spoil, because I could be like, I know who makes it, I know who doesn't, but hey, like any story, right? You kill darlings. I will say that. I am not afraid to kill darlings. But at the same time, you can always find yourself in that position of like the Walking Dead TV show, right? Because Daryl, right? He should have been dead seasons ago, right? If you go in by the comics and stuff like that. He should have been dead seasons ago, but he was such a fan favorite. It changed the whole context, the whole dynamic of the show. And so I'm like, you know what? We'll see how things go, and maybe I might change my mind on certain characters. Maybe it depends. I mean, you wouldn't want to start a riot, right?
Right.
Like, this one does. We're out in the streets, man. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I would be a little flattered. Some people would go out in the streets for Kaliska or something like that. I do get the vibe, like, as far as like, characters that I get more response from. She tends to be the one. Of course, I think, I get varied ones. A lot of guys go for Kiev or Diablo, Donahue, of course, and then Brooke, of course, like, with a lot of the ladies and stuff. And, but it's just always Kaliska is the consistent one. That's for sure. And I think it's like, I think, visually a lot of her, her attitude, like in the comics, how she goes about things and stuff like that. There's a lot of people I think that can vibe with that kind of character,
Yeah. Which leads me to what I want to ask you here is you started off digitally. It was only available digitally, but now you're printing. You're making actual print comics, because I know when you did the first issue, you only ran a certain number, and you were giving them away at conventions and stuff. But now you sell each issue digitally and physically, right? So have you? It feels like you're getting success. So is it working? How's it going out into the world? What's the response?
Oh man, it's going great. Like, as far as the conventions I've been to, they've been very positive with the reception. Like, I made good sales and everything. Like, a lot of the physical copies, of course, are the ones that go. That's the ones that people tend to want. And I have the digital. Because hey, I like to have other options. Of course, like any means necessary for people to get eyes or hands on it. And with the physical copies, yeah, like they've been going good, like because for what I charge and stuff, you know, it's a fair, reasonable price. You know, I charge like $7 just for a physical copy standard, and usually if you want it signed, you know, I'll just go like $10. You know,
Yeah.
and you know, even then, like, you know, because like there's others around that, you know, are charging a good chunk as well for, you know, like Marvel products and DC, you know, the top tier, if you will. You know,
Yeah.
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 And so, like, you know, I try to like, you know, strike a balance between, hey, I'm making good for myself, but then also, you know, I keep it down, like the cost down, you know, like a good business model, if you will, like for to make it accessible, like for people to be willing to take a chance on an indie after they spend a good chunk of money already or something, you know,
Yeah.
like because I've been to toy conventions as well, like to try my hand at comic, you know, pushing there, and you know, it was good. Like, you know, I made more contacts on that one, not as much sales as I was after, but at the same time, like, you know, I face the reality. Hey, it's hard to compete with toys, you know,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
collectors, right? You know, they know what they're here for. You know what they're there for. An indie comic, hey, cool. But I made sure to have plenty of business cards. So
Yeah. Gotta hustle. You gotta do the hustle. And I
that's
will.
one.
Yeah, and I'll put links. I'll make sure I put links in the description to go buy your comic and stuff for everybody to check it out. And follow RWA on all the socials and everything. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're getting good response and that you're making headway and stuff. Because I really do enjoy the comic. I truly do, and it's one of the first comic books I've read in many years. Because the state of the comic industry, it's crap. To be honest with you, the stories are crap. I haven't picked up a good comic book in years, and yours was pretty good, and I dug it, and I'm really glad to have it in my. I mean, I have a comic book collection. It's over here. You can't see it. I know it's usually movies and stuff because I know because I'm like the movie physical media guy here, but yeah, I do have comics because I read comics for years, and so yeah, I really dig. I really do dig your book. So
thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Thank you for making it.
Oh yeah, and that's what too. Like that's what inspired me even further. You know, was when you put the first review out. You know, for issue 1 and everything. You know, you had the same sentiment and stuff, and I was just like, dude, yeah, like, I mean, because I myself, it's basically turned into I don't go for American comics. I was going for the mangas instead. I basically turned into a manga guy. Funny how that works, you know?
Because well, they are outselling American comics, so
right, and that's what they say. And I'm like, dude, like after reading them and stuff, I see what a lot of theater kids in high school were on about, you know? Like, and that's like pretended sometimes, you know, can turn you off on certain things. You know how the fan base can be about certain properties and stuff. You know, like there was a lot of in my time in high school, a lot of Naruto kids running around, you know, with the headbands and stuff like that, and it just made me look like, oh man, it's just another fad thing, like, you know, DBZ forever kind of thing. That's my vibe. Or, you know, the OG animes, you know, as I would refer to them, you know, like, you know, all the cool stuff that I was, you know, exposed to through Toonami and other means and stuff like that, you know. And so, but yeah, no, man, like that's why I say, like, you know, just to have like someone like who hasn't read comics in a while, you know, hasn't been motivated to, and then to suddenly have an indie reach out and motivate you, like, hey man, that's, you know, like that's the best. Like I'll say, like,
that's a mantra here on FanZcene Vids is to support independent creators, independent movie makers, independent comic book creators, and independent novelists. That's a mantra here because I feel like the independent community of creators are at a better place right now than where Hollywood is. You know, they're doing stuff that maybe Hollywood doesn't do anymore, or they're creating originality that seems to be lost. And I like supporting independent creators.
So, and I think that's what a lot of it goes to. Like at that level, there's a lot of chefs in the kitchen, but then a lot of them don't know how to cook. You know, and a lot of them, you know, they have their interests. You know, I sum it up to like that. They have their interests, you know, and they're there to justify their wages too. You know, that's how it plays out. That sometimes it's the nature of the beast. But, you know, I think ultimately, like any pendulum swing, the market will have its say, like anything, you know, like when people don't show up for certain movies, you know, and all that kind of stuff, you know, because to me, a lot of it is always, you know, hey, money talks, end of the day. You know, there's a lot of there's a lot of the noise and stuff like that, you know, political or otherwise and stuff. But at the same time, like, hey, let's focus on what's like actually going on with the reality. Hey, is it making money or not? in regards
Yeah.
to like that's the goal usually, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, it's out to make
something
money.
solid, but I always
Yeah.
say, hey, like 50-50 business and artwork, like that should be the balance right there. Because hey, yeah, you want your idea to be marketable and stuff like that, but hey, you don't want to compromise your vision as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all about striking the balance and stuff, and that's the trick to anything.
Yeah.
And I think there's always room for turnaround and stuff like that. I think like the phoenix, anything that's going to die might just rise again, into
Yeah.
something else, something new, and something better, right?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what I kind of look as some kind of form of optimism was in the gaming realm. Because like I say, I'm big on survival horror, but then when Resident Evil 2 remake came out, it was so successful. I think like where it's at now, it set a precedence to where now you're seeing a whole wave of survival horror video games out there. You have like the Amnesia series, you have like all these other ones coming up and all that. And that's where it's like, I see like if you can set the right precedents, you can show like, you can take all that and make a success out of it. Boom. Like you can get all that, come your way. And,
Yeah.
And so I think that's, a lot of people like, if you're unsure of like taking on, like maybe you have some ideas in your head or something like that, but no wherewithal on how to even engage and get started with that. It's really just you go with what means that you have, but you build upon that. Like you
Mm-hmm.
create a foundation and stuff like that. Because hey, I like my writing background. I don't have a comic book writing background. I have a screenwriting background. And with my scripts, that I forward to the artist and everything. I just it's basically a movie script. Like if you were to read it, it would read just like that. You'd read it and it's like you're watching a movie, and that's how I operate. Like when I write these ideas down, I'm visualizing it's all there in my head, like a movie and stuff like that. And so over time, I felt like, hey, like you gotta engage yourself also into like the knowledge that you're leaning into. You know what I mean? Like with, hey, like, okay, so you're seeing these images in your head. So you maybe learn how to describe these shots, if you will, these visuals. You're like, hey, like when I see it in my head, it's a medium shot, 2 shot, with them in there.
Yeah.
So that's why I say like you have to step out of your comfort zones if you really want to grow as like a writer and stuff like that. Like if you're leaning into horror and stuff like that, read a lot of horror books, of course, engage in a lot of the material, you'd be surprised at what you pick up. But also, as far as a writing skill, like go with what works for you, because with my outlines and stuff, I'm just breaking everything down. It's like scene for scene. It's not like any kind of like structure to it, like a narrative or anything. I'll just have like one scene, and then hey, if I don't like it, you boom, 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 scratch it out or something.
Right. Yeah.
And there's all different kinds of methods. So that's why I say, don't ever get overwhelmed, with, where to even start. Just, start somewhere. You even keep like a little journal, that kind of template. Like,
Yeah.
for too long, you're writing stories.
Yeah, yeah, and then you next thing you know, you're making your comic book. So
Exactly.
there you go. Yeah. So and it's been fun talking to you here, man, and I've really enjoyed listening to your story and hearing how the comic book came about and everything, and and I'm glad that you're putting it on physical. That's what I'm really glad about because
Oh, yeah.
I love me a physical copy, and that's pretty cool that you write it like it's a movie script because I can see that in the story when you're reading the story because it is a very visual story when you're looking at the artwork and it's like big set grandiose pieces and and the dialogue flows pretty naturally with these characters and stuff, so I dig that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, because that's like the number one I always try to maintain is like, are we solid enough? Because hey, we don't have to be a big, award winner or anything. Like yeah, that would be great and everything, of course. It's just more about like, hey, is this just solid enough in our mind to where like we can put this out? It's all about like, is it flowing right? As far as dialogue,
Yeah.
like you say, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I enjoy the process. Still, like all the way up until issue 5. Like as soon as I get progress from Frost, I'm already chipping away at it with the notes still.
Yeah.
Because not that I get too heavy-handed on it. It's just more like, hey, if I'm gonna have any kind of like, nitpicks about stuff, just better to put it out. And then by the time we finish a phase, and I read it again, you might just be like, oh well, hey, nah, maybe I'll mark that criticism. I don't really need We can do it, So never let the process overwhelm you. If you can enjoy the process, that's a lot of it. Find a way to where you can enjoy it.
Exactly. Issue 5, do you have a release date, or do you know when about where, so we can get people excited for that?
I think for sure we'll be done this year for issue 5 for sure. Where we're at with phase 1, I think we'll finish that by maybe the end of this month. Maybe by the end of June we'll finish phase 1. So it usually takes around like 2-3 months or so, like for a given issue, since it's like usually 40 plus pages. I usually kind of cap at 46 is what I try to cap at. And so I think within maybe 4 to 5 months we should be pretty close. So that's why I'm like, definitely we should be in within the year, but we'll see how it goes, because you never know how things go. People can get sick, all that kind of stuff.
And
that's
be
why
prepared.
When I set the release date, it's got to be close to like towards the tail end of like phase 3. Like almost where we're like, I know we're gonna be like out of the gate, thing. So that's when I was like, okay, I'll put a release date then.
All right.
So
All right, that's cool. But Will, it has been fun chatting with you. I appreciate your time and listening to your story. Like I said, all your links will be in the description down below if you guys want to go order what is out there of RWA issues 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I will put your links to your social medias. Any final words here, Will, as we close it out?
I mean, just thank everybody, for their time, for checking us out. Like, if you go forward into checking us out like further, we have an Instagram set up and everything. Like, we're always trying to keep regular with, posts of artwork and events, info as well, because I am trying to be more regular with the events and stuff like that, because there's some out in San Antonio I've been hitting. But I'm trying to branch out as well into Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, all these areas and stuff like that. So definitely keep out. Like, we're definitely trying to get more out there.
All righty then. Well, thank you all for watching. Thank you, Will, for being here. Wherever you guys are, please have a great, safe, happy, healthy day, morning, afternoon, evening, and night. Click the like button, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, share the video and interview out so everybody can see Will's story. Always support physical media. It is the superior format. Godspeed.